Hello, welcome to Toffee TV. Here is the Daily Live Extra. I've been a dentist, so my mouth is still part numb. So just warning you. I keep smacking it in the hope that it comes back. Fulham tonight.
Oh, we got a game tonight?
There's a game. I mean, there's a lot of other stuff going on. Appeals and stuff. But we have got a game tonight. Not convinced what team we're going to put out.
No. Ian Wone, apparently he's on the bench.
Oh, Ian Wone.
On the bench, apparently.
Fair play. Why not? Why wouldn't you? Why wouldn't you? Tough game.
Yeah.
Made more tougher. No Amadou Onana, looks like.
Yeah, well, this is what happens, isn't it? If you push players to the wall.
Dwight McNeil centre mid.
God.
Did you should play centre mid, of course.
That's why now plays on the wing.
Fair play.
No, yeah, tough game, and it'll be made even tougher by potential injuries, potential problems. So, yeah, it was a struggle already, and now it's going to be even more a struggle. But as I said, you push and you push and you push a very, very small squad. You're gonna end up pushing them over the edge, and you're gonna end up having players missing. Sadly, just a kind of guy went out the African nations last night, so get him home and get him available for Saturday at least, and then have that extra person in there. But yeah, it'll be a struggle. Tonight.
Is it gonna just be a case of get what you can?
I think that's
dig in.
It's like that every game, isn't it?
I know, but I mean, in terms of, it's going to be a more defensive performance. Try to ride it out.
Yeah, that's it. Hope they. I mean, they're not in great form. So it's not like sitting here sort of worrying about that situation. But let's be honest, you worry about them getting one, and then that's it, isn't it? So
it's frustrating, isn't it? Because, like you said, it's not a case of they're flying and you're terrified to go there. But what it is it's just losing the players, isn't it?
Just timing.
If you just had, this at a different time when we've got our players available, you'd be going, great chance for 3. And it still is. Sometimes you can cobble together a result. Everyone digs in and players, just pull something out the fire and
all get together and just pull it out the hat. Can happen, of course it can happen.
That's what has to happen.
Show a bit of character and see what we can do. But it's tough. It's gonna be a tough ask, isn't it? If Onana is definitely not there, then it is going to be a tough ask, because that midfield won't be a proper midfield. It'll have one midfielder in it, essentially. So it'll be tough. But let's see what happens. Let's not write them off just yet.
No, we're capable of going and getting a result. We've still got Dom, who's due a goal. We've still got Harrison. We've got McNeil. We've got players. Danjuma might get a go. Who knows? We haven't got the Corey. That's it. That's the way it is, and we haven't got Onana. But we will have a Drissagana Gay back at the weekend for the Spurs game, which is huge for us. Hopefully Onana's just, this game's come too soon for him, and he'll be available at the weekend, because we just need as many players as we can, don't we?
Been coming with Onana though, hasn't it? Because he's been not right since Wolves.
Fulham, wasn't he? Once he has to go off against Fulham, stayed on, missed the pen, and then he's been hit and miss, hasn't he? Since. But yeah, we haven't got players, have we? And when you haven't got players, this is what happens. And I don't know what they do now. In terms, I know the money's tight, and you watch the manager's press conference for this game, and he's almost resigned and nobody's coming in, basically. And that's a terrible position to be in when you're desperate. It's disappointing when you've got players and you think we could just do it one more to freshen it up, and no one comes in. That's disappointing. But when you are desperate for players, Because essentially, we've got one fit midfielder now out of 5.
Yeah.
Garner's not here. Onana's injured, Gomez injured, Decore's injured. And we've got James Garner, the only one.
Yeah.
That's not a good position to be in.
As I said, as we were saying yesterday, you push players. Don't give them any time. It'll come back. And I know Sean Dyche is in a really bad position, but I do think some of it he's brought on himself. I really do. And I know that's not, that's just the truth. People can cry all they want about we don't have enough subs. Make them. Sean McAllister scored another good goal last night. Now, I'm not saying Sean McAllister's the answer. No way.
Yeah.
What I'm saying is, though, why not have him on the bench? Obviously, he won't be playing tonight because he played last night. But why not have him on the bench as someone that you say, come on, you can play the last 10 minutes. You can, people can dismiss fatigue and all that kind of thing, but fatigue turns into injuries. That's just a simple case. And if you push and you push and you push, and you don't take players off when they're struggling, this is what happens. And you have a game actually where on paper you go, God, we could win that, and then you're down to your last centre midfielder, and that's what happens. And I think that's the naivety that he's shown as our manager. He's done some amazing things, and he put us in a good position without the 10-point deduction. But no one can tell me, nobody, and you can bring an expert in this room, the greatest expert in the world. They could not tell me that subbing players doesn't make a difference, because it does make a difference. It makes a difference gradually over a course of time. The more rest, recuperation those players get between games, not playing 90 minutes every week, every 4 days for 6 weeks, 7 weeks, 8 weeks, it's going to come back and hit you. And it has. And we're down to our centre midfielder. And honestly, I can only put that down to his sub-strategy. It's poor. It's really, really poor. And, as I said, loads of people go, oh, we haven't got the players. We have got the players. We have got the players. We've got players who sat on the bench on Saturday. We've got kids in the under-21s who are dying for an opportunity. They mightn't be good enough. But as we said yesterday, is Dobbin good enough? Will he come off the bench against Chelsea when he was needed and ended up getting the second goal to see the game safe? That's what you have subs for. And that's why other people use them. Luton brought 5 on Saturday and won the game. So some of this he's brought on himself. Well,
let's see what we can do tonight, because, like we said, it's a tough game, but you just never know. No. You never know. And still be decent footballers out there. You've got to go out, stick together, and see when you get an opportunity, take it, defend properly.
Yeah.
You hinted that Coleman might be available for this one. More so than Young, he said in that press conference, but then. So we might end up with Seamus and Ashley Young in the squad as well. But no matter what happens, both of them are being rushed, aren't they? Because they're probably not ideally ready, are they? But a win would be tremendous. A draw would be good. Just keep adding them points on, because that's all it comes down to now, doesn't it? We just got to keep picking up points when we can get them. Obviously, if Luton were to win tonight, we'd be in the bottom 3. But Brighton are just starting to hit a little bit of form again. So hopefully they can go to Luton and take them apart. And because that's what it's for now. It is a little bit. We need a few stay of executions while we get our players back. We need Arsenal to go to Forest and
whilst we've got no players,
that's what I'm saying.
No players, we need other teams to do a job for us as well. That's just the way it is.
So then we'll see where we go from there, won't we? Just moving away from the game, because there is obviously big news again today that the Independent Commission will begin tomorrow. A 3-day hearing. The result we'll know in 3 weeks, and then at least by the end of February we will know on that charge and those points where we stand, whether we're getting anything back. There seems to be a lot of optimism that things might be changing, but then the Premier League have hit back at Mark Carney and people like that today by once again Masters going to his mates in the media. But when you actually read it, it is a lot of nonsense. It's a load of it doesn't actually address anything really, other than to say
Nice.
do it.
Just noise.
It's just noise to go. It was independent. The commission we picked. That's what it is.
Yeah.
But it can't be independent if you're picking the person who picks his mates to be on the commission. That can't be independent.
Yeah.
Independent needs to be nothing to do with the Premier League and picked by a independent.
But this
body
is
or
where it
whatever.
doesn't make any sense, because the club can't talk about it. The independent commission we were put in place by the Premier League can't talk about it, but the Premier League can talk about it, even though that's nonsense.
Yeah, they've got no shame. He's got no shame whatsoever, Masters.
No, he's protecting himself. He's not protecting
fella's
the
a
Premier League or the
disgrace.
brand. He's protecting himself, and he's come under fire, and he's trying to hit back using, again, client journalism again, and to do that again to one of your own members, but whilst not showing transparency in what actually got said in the first commission is despicable. And the media love it. They love the story. And it's just headlines. It's just a headline, hits back, fires back at market. It's a headline to say we're in control.
But they're not in control.
They're not. Well, they're not in control just by the very nature that it's a commission. It's nonsense, absolute nonsense, and it just generates headlines to create this scenario that Everton are guilty, and that's what it's there for. It's there to say that Everton are guilty. Again, they did this before the first one, and they're doing it again.
This is what I can't understand. How was it? Doing it again twice. How can you be allowed to do that to something that's supposed to be independent?
Well, you're getting inside people's heads, aren't you? You said this from the first one. Now they were planting the seed of Everton's guilt, and that Everton had to be punished. And actually, something like 10 points wouldn't be too big a thing. Like so, he is desperate to put himself in good light, because obviously that letter, and the people who signed it made them look poor, to be honest, because they were three really well established figures.
Yeah.
In the different fields. So
I think people have to keep the pressure on now. He's quite clearly running scared. He's the dirty tricks are out. They've been out from him from the start, but it's gonna step up because, like you said, he's scrambling around now, trying to save himself, and therefore the whole thing. People should be spreading his name everywhere. People should be on social media. # Masters, Dickie Masters, whatever you want to call him. Keep his name bouncing around. Keep the pressure on him. Put the squeeze on him. Because the fellas, the way he's acted is disgraceful. Absolutely disgraceful. And he's still doing it now. The commission's about to start again, and he's feeding these journalists again.
He's once again spoke about Man City and how complex theirs is, but he knows the date, and he won't tell. He won't say when the date is. So again, it's that thing of like if everyone knew the date, then more spotlight would be put on it again. But he won't tell anyone the date, so people come away from that and they're shining wholly on Everton, obviously, at the moment, and he knows exactly what he's doing.
Scandalous, really. That's what I mean. That's why people do have to keep, because you are rattling them by continuing to comment, continuing to spread the word, continuing to retweet stuff, continuing to keep it going. You're getting to him in a big way. The fella's a disgrace as far as I'm concerned with what he's done and what they're still trying to do. The whole thing, again, we keep saying it. Just remember why PSR was put in place. That's the only point you should be coming from. Why is it there in the first place? It's not there to create an even playing field for everyone, which is sad, because there should be stuff in place that does that. Therefore, drags the power away from the ones at the top, because independently, what you want is a Premier League run by people who want to create the best competition in the world, not look after a certain amount of clubs. There's a big conflict. I understand what I'm saying. The causes a conflict of interest, though, because they're just running it as a business, aren't they? And when you're running something as a business, you're always going to lean towards the people who bring the most business in. But the Premier League would be supported, obsessed over, followed by everybody, regardless of whether they weighted it in the favour of Liverpool, Manchester City, United, whoever you choose, Arsenal, whoever you choose. If they tried to balance it all, the Premier League would still be the most watched, just because of because the size of the clubs. But what they've done is they've seen those clubs and just ran with them anyway, because they need looking after, and they need instead of going, you play in our league, you ain't looking after you. You're no more important. Well, he said this, didn't he? He's already come out, and you've heard Rick Parry, same thing, come out and say Liverpool should be given more power than Nottingham Forest anyway in the Premier League, and Everton. You know what I mean? That kind of thing. Why? We're all in this competition. These football clubs are already so powerful with their own destiny, what they do, the money they're able to create away from Premier League. So why should the Premier League lean into them as well and go, we'll put you on telly more, we'll make sure you get better decisions, we'll give you more power when you're sitting around the why? We'll pay you more rights when you... Why? That shouldn't be what it is. It should be, you want to play in our competition, this is our competition, this is the best, we're making it the best in the world, we're going to try and make it the most even, anyone can win it all to a point. And then it comes down to top managers. People like Pep and Klopp and others would still have their teams near the top because they're brilliant managers. That's what it's about. But instead of that, not only are they weighting it heavily in favour of those clubs and giving them, pandering to them and doing whatever they want, the rules they put in place means that clubs like Aston Villa have got to try and sell Ollie Watkins in the summer to survive so they don't fail. Newcastle talking about having to sell players in the summer so they don't fail. Other clubs who are higher up the chain having to do the same. How do those clubs, we keep saying it, but how do those clubs build? How do you build a team that can actually properly challenge?
You can't. It's impossible.
And if you do, what you have to do is baby steps, don't you? So you have to build it, and lose one by 3. Build it, lose 1 by 3. And okay, you might get there, but every decision's almost got to be perfect, hasn't it? To do it. Where these other clubs have already got the run. They're already sprinting away from it, everyone. And the Premier League, and under his stewardship, by the way, Richard Masters, this divide has got worse and worse and worse. And never once have they gone, hang on, this isn't good. This is not good, this power. We need to look at rules that give other teams an opportunity to mix it with them. You'll still get, if 2 players are, if there's a player available and it's Manchester United or Everton, a lot of times the player will go to Manchester United. We understand that, don't we? We'd like to think if it was Luton or Everton, the player would come to Everton. If Everton was stable, if both clubs were kind of stable. There's already huge chasms in this league. And what they're doing is they keep feeding the powerful ones and weakening everybody else. His language said it at that thing the other week. The small clubs. That's how they view it. And if nobody should be letting him off. He's a disgrace, the way he's behaved. Might be competent at what he does, but he's the 4th choice, by the way, for that job. 3 of the other ones got out because they probably knew what they'd have to do and make sure they only favoured a few teams and look the other way on things, maybe. That all 3 of them went, actually, you know what, no thanks. He was the one who took it. So nobody should be letting him off the hook, the way he's behaved, the way he's feeding journalists. What's he giving them in return for what they're printing? Who knows? But it's a disgrace what's going on. They should have kept their mouth shut until this commission's out the way. And he's done it twice now. Twice, days before commission started, he's fed his client journalists, and they've lapped it up. And therefore, keep it going, keep perpetuating it, keep his name hashtagged, keep him trending, keep putting the pressure on him, because he is a disgrace. He's a disgrace. Trying to influence the commission again like he did last time. And that's where we are. That's where we are. I can't stress enough for other clubs. Look at I've just had a stat here. This transfer window there's a 94% drop-off in this transfer window compared to 12 months ago. Now, some people might go, I have no issue with that. No problem with it. I don't care. I don't want players moving mid-season. That's fine. I'm not sat here going, oh, this is terrible. You know, Sky aren't going to be able to put their yellow ties on Thursday and all that. Not at all. You know, we hope it's a busy day. I hope Everton, you know, there's a couple of teams sniffing around a couple of our players. If one of them goes, we might be able to do something. That'd be good for us, for the squad, for the rest of the season. I'm sure people will move. Forest are looking at about another 10, apparently. And teams will do stuff. But I think in a world where football transfers aren't slow or hadn't been slowing down previously, the minute Everton are slapped with this and Forest are pulled, all of a sudden you hear the managers going, we can't because of PSR, we can't because of Liverpool. They had someone from Liverpool the other day saying, with the numbers, we're all right, we're fine, we don't want to overspend, there's no one, and that's how it should be. You should look and go, we don't need to, we've got what we need. We don't all need to be dragged into this deadline to play roulette with, just buy a player for the sake of it. But I think 94% drop-off shows you that what the Premier League have put in, these rules and the way they've acted upon this, has ground it all to a halt. And I think personally it's crazy. I'm putting points, I keep saying it, points deductions, that to me is an embarrassment. It's an embarrassment to the league to have point deductions in. I can't stress that enough, how pathetic it makes the league look. And he wants that. Yeah. And therefore, like I say, keep it going. Because he doesn't like the spotlight being on him in a negative way.
But even just reading what he wrote, he doesn't even mention the stadium doesn't get mentioned once.
No.
Doesn't get mentioned once in the whole thing, which is ridiculous. You know, to not reference something that's costing over $500 million is
he just trying to still pin it on players?
He says in the letter that basically the Premier League worked with Everton and they were told, Do
you know that Everton weren't given that? That's basically a lie. That Everton were told 2 months before the commission that was going in. It was presented as evidence, so it was in. That he's not lying about that. It did go before the commission. Everton weren't given that information before. Now that I'm not saying that's all the Premier League's fault, because it isn't. Everton, and again, can we just be clear as well? When I'm talking here, I'm not excusing for the way Everton have been run. It's been a bloody embarrassment at times. And I can't stress that enough, the way the last incompetence of that boardroom have ran our football club with the owner. Absolutely crazy at times. But when you are building a stadium that's costing over £500 million.
Yeah. Well, he says Everton may have taken unwise risks. Well, yeah, we probably did by building a stadium, but you don't mention the stadium, you're talking about players.
It's not players, though. The facts are out there. Sorry, mate, that's not you.
No.
I'm just saying, though, it's not players. Well, before all them facts were presented to me last week or whatever it was, I could still see just by my own workings out we hadn't really done that. But the facts are there. Everton, third bottom in net spend. Everton, the only team in the past 3 years, comfortably the most, that brought the most in without spending in the last 3 years. Everton for 5 years on the run have been positive in the player trading.
That's where it makes a mockery of that 3 year cycle, because if you're in obviously your first 2 years are bad, we all know that. You've made an improvement in your third year, you tried to get that. You keep on reiterating this, you still need players to play. You still need a squad to play football. We're seeing that at the moment. You need a squad. And if you can't bring in players, and it's not like we've brought in amazing players on huge wages that cost us. You know, they've worked cleverly to bring players in. I don't know what they want from us. Did they want us to just never buy another player again and let the players we had going out on free transfers to go and then not be able to replace them? Well, then if that's what they wanted, they should have given us a transfer ban. If that's what they wanted, I just I find it, and yeah, as I've said lots of times, just because well, you know, we've had horrendous people who did this to our football club, but that still doesn't excuse what's happened to us, because two wrongs don't make a right.
I think for me, again, just it is out there. It's quite clear what has happened, and I don't understand why he keeps going on about players. The numbers are all there for him. The numbers are all there.
You've got players who were on long. I was listening to the Frank Lampard interview. Yeah, he did on the Gary Neville's podcast, and he made it quite clear that in that summer, one summer, players wouldn't leave. It sounded like he was somewhat Michael Keane and maybe Yerry Mina.
Well, there was a few.
But he was basically saying players wouldn't leave who were on decent contracts and were getting to the 30s. Now, how do you explain to people who may only deal in facts, figures, maybe not facts, just figures, that side of football? They'll go, well, you shouldn't do this and you shouldn't do that. And you're like, well, unfortunately, we've got players who are on long contracts that predate this 3-year cycle or whatever that we can't get rid of because nobody wants them. Because your rules mean that no one wants these players and they don't want to leave. They're never going to get wages like they've got at our club. So how do you explain? How do you factor that in? What do they do? Just shrug and go, that's not our problem. Well, it's like, well, it sort of is, because you created these rules. We've been stupid enough to give these contracts out. But that's the side of things where I just think it's more than just numbers on a book. It's human beings involved. If someone's hit 30, has got 3 years left on a contract, is on good money, why would they leave a football club? And how does a football club get rid of them? Or you've got a Gabanin situation with a player who's got two terrible injuries, basically destroys his career, his ability to play at the highest level, and so nobody else wants him, but you've got him on contract. How do you factor that in? Do they just shrug their shoulders and go, oh well, you know,
they have, haven't they?
Player X that we all know about, you know?
Well, he's on a free transfer, would you? Yes or no? Get him back, great pointer, but he does score goals.
And it's like, they're the things where you go, how can you factor them into all these things? How can those be, you know? And I thought that was interesting when Lampard said that. I wanted to do things, but I couldn't because my hands were tied, because players simply wouldn't leave.
It's bad, isn't it? Because I know a lot of people don't like Frank Lampard and all that, but when you do listen to that, and I'm sure Sean Dyche is in exactly the same position, by the way. Well, he will be. But when you listen to a manager talking like that, and he's like, you know, we stayed up, and then it was like, right, how can we affect this right now? And it's like, we want to do this and we want to do that. And you've got players, I'm sure Andre Gomez will have been one, on big money, so it's hard for other clubs to take them. You know, one could have been Mason Holgate. They want to get out, but the wages scuffle. We know that people come in and inquire. And then when you inquire, how much, it's bad, but if you're a footballer, like you just said, if we come in and try and buy you and you're on at 90 grand a week and my club can only offer you 30 grand a week, why would you take that reduction? Now, you might go, you know what, I just wanted to play, so I've left. Yeah. It was easy I want to go and play games, but a lot of players just go, and we know players, we've been a great place for that kind of thing. Cenk Tosun.
Of course. Well, he's another one. Cenk Tosun, doesn't matter whether, I mean, he was a terrible buy, but he also had 2 knee injuries that scuppered deals that we were going to leave. 20 million
we had to deal with Palace for, didn't we, in his knee?
People forget that. Like, he got a knee injury while he was at Palace, while on loan, and they were probably going to sign him.
Well, it was arranged. It was 20 million in the
stuff like that. That it's like, how can you account for that? How can a number on a piece of paper ever account for that? It's.
But we're not even saying that, are we? What we're saying is, when you look at see, I can't get my head around the Premier League looking at those numbers, right, and going, yeah, okay, there's too much money here, gone, whatever. Like, I understand that, but if you're truly working with someone, I can't understand if Everton weren't building a stadium, right, and that question's being asked, isn't it? Without Everton building a stadium, would Everton have failed PSR? No. Nowhere near it, apparently. Nowhere near it. But then you're sort of saying, well, you're building a stadium. But it's like, well, the club's got to survive, so you should be trying to help the club. Nottingham Forest, their situation's totally different to Everton's. And I don't want to bag Forest out and go, they shouldn't have done. But we all were looking, weren't we, going, how are they signing these many players? They're going to have an issue. Because whatever. Forest are in trouble because they've simply signed too many players. And that's down in black and white. Now, if Nottingham Forest were rebuilding the City ground, I'd be going, well, you can't really do them when they're trying to the building a structure that's going to, enhance the City ground, better for the fans. It's there. Bricks and mortar is there. But all of this narrative...
Yeah, like the player stuff is...
The player stuff is utter, for Everton, it's nonsense. For Forest, you can see it. We've bought loads of players and we've failed. So the Premier League could go, you're trying to gain an advantage. But even that, they've just come up. They're trying to stay up. Even that blows my mind. So you'd be better going to Forest. You've got a 12-month transfer ban. You've got 171 players anyway, but you've got a ban. Not we're taking points off you. But Everton, there was a war. There was I know everyone had COVID, but I'm just saying that was involved. That was part of Everton's numbers going down, the same as a lot of other clubs. Get that? So I'll take COVID out of it. There was a war which cost us naming rights. Put it this way, if the war wouldn't have happened, our stadium would be paid for now as well. We'd also be having, quite conceivable, USM's money would have gone up as well. Nothing 30 million would have gone up as well. So we'd have all that money coming in. And then on top of that, we're building a stadium. So we've got a war that's robbed us of, robbed us, but took away 240 million for the stadium and 30 plus million a season. And on top of that, we're building a stadium, which is taking most of our money. We haven't gone and spent anything. If you go, and the PSR numbers for player trading shows that, and that's really what it's on. Even with the wages, if Everton's turnover is 200 million, and the wages are 180 million, then that gives you 20 million to spend on players, doesn't it? Each year. And the way Everton do business now is they try and buy people on for a down payment of like 3 or 4 million. And that's basically where it is.
I just think the whole system is just nonsense. And just like, there's not going to be... I was looking here and like some of the transfers, like all the transfers people were talking about getting done, they're not happening. Nothing's happening. Do you know what I mean? Almiron's not leaving.
No.
Brozier's not got leaving Chelsea.
No. We can't, can they?
No, none of these deals are getting done.
Them clubs can't let them go.
No, that's what I'm saying. None of these deals are getting done. It's a crazy situation, and it'll get changed. And that's the most funniest thing about the whole thing is it'll get changed. Or the next time someone builds a stadium, they'll want, if anyone can afford to build a stadium now, they'll want it absolutely absolutely rigid that nothing they do affects PSR.
You've got to, haven't you?
And that'll stop people. That might stop people from building stadiums, new infrastructure.
It just totally and utterly blows my mind that you get punished for building a stadium. It really does, especially when West Ham were given theirs and City were given theirs within this league. I'm not having a go at them two clubs because you'd be made up. Of course you would. But a lot of things have changed in the landscape since we committed to building it. Yeah. We don't forget, we were going to take a loan for our stadium, which would have just meant repayments every year. And Mashiri, it's proved incorrect decision now because it's obviously ended up spiralling costs because of wars and things like that. But if he'd have took a loan for, say, 30 years off a bank or off something to cover the cost of it, we wouldn't have failed PSR either. And we'd have had to pay, say it was, I don't know, £15 million a season back to it or something like that, whatever. And he didn't want to saddle the club with that debt every summer. I mean, ironically, it would have been better if he did. But at that time, when he was trying to do that, interest rates, the normal interest was probably something like 0.5%, and banks wanted 4.5% or whatever it was. And he thought it was too high.
I don't even think it was that.
Well,
think it was that high. I think it was more like 0 points.
Well, whatever, yeah. So he didn't want to do that. And yet, that's all being agreed that if Everton would have done it that way, they wouldn't have been in any kind of trouble anyway. But so not saddling the club with that. So you're all supposed to be working to make sure clubs are sustainable.
That's like ineptness of knowing, of everyone knowing what the actual rules are. Or
no, it is. It is. And again, we can't. Everton aren't innocent in this. Don't get me wrong. It's not like, oh, they've just come, whatever. But it is nonsense.
No, it is. It's all nonsense. It's all nonsense. You can step back from it all. It's all nonsense. It's a game of footy where you're supposed to be able to go and buy players and sell players and build a new ground and all that. It's all nonsense. Because what it is it's not real. It's like if you played in American sports, you know what the rules are because the rules are there. The rules are the rules are part of the game. Your draft days and salary caps and wage caps and all these things and luxury taxes and baseball and all that. It's all there. It's all real. It all exists. It's all part of the process. This isn't real because it's a thing that has been there for over 10 years and it's never been used, and then suddenly it is being used. It's bollocks. It's just absolute bollocks. Said it before. Teams like Man United sell more jerseys than everyone else, so therefore they're exempt from all this. This will never ever come near them ground, whatever. You know what I mean? It's like clubs, everybody else who has to actually work for a living. It's nonsense. It's supposed to be about a game of footy. It's not supposed to be about spreadsheets and fucking having to wait till maybe after the season to see who's been relegated. It's nonsense. And that's the point. You take a step back and you look at the bigger picture and you go, this is just bollocks. It's supposed to be about 11 fellas kicking the ball around the pitch.
No, it is.
That's what it's supposed to be about. And we're sitting here talking about, this loophole and that loophole and interest rates and wars and it's bollocks. It's utter bollocks.
We all should be having chats on here about who we might be able to bring in and who would help the team and can Everton beat Fulham tonight and all. And we can still talk about the Fulham game, of course you can, but that's what it should be about. It should all be that, trying to get that little bits of excitement because it is difficult to play in this league.
That means that 15 teams in the Premier League can't really afford to buy players in a transfer window. Yeah. What does that say about the rules and how they're being used and how teams interpret them? What does that say? It just says nobody's got a real understanding of what's going on. The Premier League were very lenient with those rules, and now suddenly they've clamped down on them. And everyone now is like, oh my God, what do we do? And no one quite knows whether they're going to last. So therefore, they're being very reserved in this window. This is where it's just like, how stupid is this? And that's the thing I really just can't get over. It's so stupid that football is hating it. The irony is, if there's one little consolation for us is that because it is so messed up, is that no one's buying, so no one's really improving away from us.
Yeah.
And it's just mad.
It is mad. Dave, go and listen to something else then. We'll ask you a question. The news is out there today, so we're discussing it. If you don't like it, do something else. Simple as that, mate. James says Masters was pitied having a meal with FSG and Glazers before the Premier League appointed them. It wouldn't surprise me, mate. Wouldn't surprise me, to be honest. Someone said at least deadline day we're going to be having balled 11 and left-footed 11. Other 11s are available. Roberto Martinez says, yeah, that bald and left-footed 11 for deadline day is a shout, by the way. Liam says, how does a 10-point deduction and transfer ban affect Mashiri? Yeah, but no owners are really punished, are they, if you think about it? If you look at it, no owners get punished, do they? No matter what happens, really. So I don't know how you would do that. G-Mac says Keane, Young and Coleman are topping up their pensions. Yeah, but Seamus is still playing. In fact, 2 of them do play in our team. No, G-Mac, that's the issue, isn't it?
The club giving Keane a contract is one of the worst decisions out of all of this. Genuinely. Terrible decision. This is why Moyes insisted that players, once they got 30, only got 1 year contracts.
No.
For all of these reasons.
A couple of people saying if we don't get anyone in, bring Mopai back.
Can't. It's not our player.
Not our player, is he? Signed that deal for a year, hasn't he? And Everton, don't forget, Everton will be looking, hoping he carries on doing well, and Brentford to pay the money for him and take him. Stephen says you have to balance using useless subs for keeping better players on for 98 minutes. Perhaps if he'd used loads of subs earlier in the year, then maybe we wouldn't have so many points. No, I don't quite get that, to be fair. The professional footballers, they get paid to play football.
I'm talking over the last month or so, 3 FA Cup games. I'm talking about that. 3 FA Cup games where we could have used more of the squad. That's if Onana looked like got injured against Wolves, and we've been using him every game. It's like, do we really need to do that?
Yeah. It is mad. Make sure you hit the like button. Otherwise, you're a Richard Masters fan. That's what I'm being told in the comments here as well. So about Mopai, not doing any of that stuff. Long-haired 11 for deadline day, says Chris Bain. Listen, why not? Could be. There could be. You can never rule anything out, Chris. Paul Catzel says, afternoon, lads and fellow Blues. Great they're finally looking into the points deduction. Hopefully some good news and common sense in the near future.
Yeah, I'm not sure common sense is used.
You've got to
Just got to get it done, innit? Just to get it done.
No, we need to know where we are, don't we? We need to know where we are. If we're getting some back, no, we're not. Adam says, what's the midfield looking like if Onana's out? The only thing I can think of is putting Godfrey in there and let him attempt to break things up. Usually when you've got injuries, you sort of know. But you sort of see how players will be shoehorned in. But at the moment, if it's not Godfrey, I have no idea what Dyche does. I could see him playing. He can either play 3 at the back and have
no midfield. It still doesn't fix the midfield.
No, but I think Dwight McNeil. I think he might play in there with James Garner.
Michael Keane centre midfield.
I know. Gary Waters, Hardy Steve Kelly says, who was better, Stone or Wone? Wone
was a really good player.
Stone was an up and Dyche loved Stone, by the way. Stone was a hard working right side of the midfield player who did get goals as well. He was a good player, Steve Stone, but Wone had a lovely left foot. And he was a good footballer.
He was a really good player.
Steve Guy says Masters and Co have now stated that the Sly 6 gained no sporting advantage from their breakaway. The fact is they absolutely tried to get such an advantage, and they absolutely have gained an advantage with Champions League restructuring, so it's virtually impossible for them not to qualify now. Yeah, he's a clown. His answers are pathetic. David says, morning gents, I still reckon we can get a win tonight. Fulham's recent Premier League run hasn't been great. Unfortunately, we will have to make it scrappy and do a smash and grab. Yeah, totally agree.
We would make it anything else.
Martin says you guys are spot on about the manager. Under 21 should have been part of the team in the FA Cup and the League Cup. Takes the strain off the first team, gives them a break for the league. I had arguments on Saturday on Twitter saying he should have made 3 subs at half time. Jimmy Dobbin and Dan Juma should have been on at the break. Yeah, well, I understand people going, he's not good enough and he's not good enough. I understand it. We've said it before. Under 21 football's not really the breeding ground for the Premier League, but also they are professional footballers. They play football, so you just transfer it from the pitch onto another pitch. But Everton have got a few players there. Dobbin's played in the Premier League, played the whole season for Derby. I just remember the Wolves game and how gone all our players looked, and I know the replay, he wouldn't have wanted the replay against Palace. And that obviously come into it, and I understand he wants to win every game, and that's great. But I also think the subs thing is just balmy. Just like, also during a game, if other teams are putting 5 subs on and you're only putting 2, then of course they're fresher than you. So it's going to come back. It's going to mean your players that are already tired are going to be working harder, and they're going to hit those red zones. And listen, they've got all the data. I appreciate that. They've got all that data. And players will obviously... He's got the kind of players, and it is good that he has got the kind of players that'll go, no, Gaffer, I'll play. Of course, I'll play. I'll get off, you know. McNeil probably could have done with another week or so, being out after what happened at Palace, but he came back, and that's great. Don't get me wrong, that's brilliant. But I don't buy any of this stuff of, like, we haven't got the players. The manager makes a choice. He makes a choice to have an extra goalie on the bench, or he makes a choice to not bring Dobbin on. That's, you know, I disagree with him on that. Simple as that. Simple as that. Listen, I listened to his interview with Julia Bold, and he made a really good point where he went, you know, no one argues when an electrician or a doctor or something tells you, but they do with managers. And I fully get that. That's a really good point. That's a really good point. But I still look at it just as someone who's watched football for a long time going, well, if you play the same 13 players every game, they're going to get to a point where you're going to get loads of injuries all at once. And we have. I mean, it's us. And don't get me wrong, he might have looked at it and gone, we'll front load the season, we'll get the points. Yeah. And second half of the season, full Alan Kirby,
we'll just cruise in. We'll on the fumes. I get that. And obviously the points thing has massively killed that. That's not his fault. Fully get that. But I'm talking about the last month where we've had 3 FA Cup games where he could have looked at it and gone, I'm gonna throw a kid on here, or I'm gonna have a couple of kids on the bench, and the few fans might have a moan. Oh, we wanted to win. I get that. I get that. Everyone will. Said it yesterday. People talking about it, think like going like, you know, could have won that. It's like, I get that, but we didn't, and we only used 2 subs on Saturday, and we ended up getting beat when they used 5. And tonight we've only got one midfielder. That's
terrifying.
It's bad, and it's bad. And in his hands are tied because of the transfer stuff. Fully get that. You know, 99.9 of this is not Sean Dyche's fault, but just that little thing where I'm just like,
Yeah. Stan says, all right, lads, totally agree regarding Dyche not rotating the squad. He may think they're not good enough, but they need a rest, even if stats shown physically okay. What about the mental side of things? We as fans are exhausted by it all. Surely the players are drained too. Cup games should have been used to give a rest and get minutes into unused players. Surely this is running on because we're being used as a patsy, masters employed by the Premier League. And remind me, who are the Premier League? Is doing what they want. There's a bigger agenda being pushed by the big clubs. For too long, teams are being content just to be in the Premier League, and the reality of it, they've let the Premier League class them as smaller clubs for the privilege of being in their league. The way the narrative plays out, you think the Premier League only got where it is today because of the bigger clubs. Absolutely. It's a nonsense that people have been allowed to peddle that narrative. David Green says the Premier League have destroyed their own product. More and more fans have had enough. I haven't watched any football apart from Everton now for 3 months. Yeah, Everton Viking says, do you think our fans are at risk of being desperate for a hero? They're making heroes out of people for no reason. I've seen it with Dyche, who has done a decent job, but in my opinion can do a lot better. And now it's Super Silk.
Oh.
Some of our fans...
Whoa, don't touch Super Silk.
Some of our fans seem so desperate to cling on to a hero to come and save them that they're at the risk of hurting them. I don't think there's anything to suggest Super Silk being amazing at his job.
I think there's a touch of tongue-in-cheek about the whole Silk thing, but I actually do think he's probably very good at his job as well.
No, I think he did say, despite being amazing at his job.
Yeah, no, I agree. We're
holding out for a hero.
We have got some players that some of our fans have just you would think they were absolute unbelievable superstars when they're just bang average footballers. Like there's players in our team that if they string together 10 consistent games are suddenly amazing. And people are like, oh my God, we could lose them to so, and you're like, what are you talking about? Like, and we've got a team, like, we've got a team of absolutely bang average players, bar Branthwaite, who will go to the very top, and Onana, who can go to the very top. Everyone else is absolutely bang average. And yet people are lauded because they've got consistency. And that's it. That's it, because they've got a bit of consistency. Don't even have to have good games now and again. You know, Mykolenko has gone really, really consistent. Fair play to him. But in most games, he doesn't really do anything. He just does his job, if that makes sense. He just does his job. And that's great. That's what you want. That's what you want. But he doesn't really do anything. He just does his job. Whereas I think we've been used to as left-backs, the likes of Baines and Dean, who do a bit more than just do the job. But then people, it's weird. I don't get it. It's weird. People just want heroes. I understand that, but there's like no halfway place where you can just go, yeah, they're fine. It's like that. McNeil's another one. McNeil's hasn't been good this season. Has not been good, but you can't say a word about him. But he hasn't been good this season. He's got might be circumstances out of his control, but he hasn't been good this season. And yeah, it's weird. Weird. I don't get it myself.
But it's because people
Super
want
is
that.
the absolute bollocks, though. Don't be having a go at him.
People want.
Of course they do. They want heroes. It's still football, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's still football. Yeah, Miko has been our best player. No argument with that. Miko's been our best player. Not saying he hasn't, but he's still not like this amazing player, is he? Mykolenko has been our best player, and he's gone up massively, and fair play to him. Fair play to him. He's got a very consistent level. Not having a go at him, but what I'm saying is people go overboard, don't they, and make out like they're amazing when he just goes out there and does his job every game. And that's like, that should be the basis of any player, isn't it? They should have a consistency with every game. You're like, getting better. That's why the manager loves Ashley Young and he loves Seamus Coleman, because he knows when he puts them on a pitch, they get a level of consistency where Patterson is like, do you know what I mean? And that's what I'm saying. I'm not having a go at anyone. I'm just saying players are lauded when they're just really just dead
6 out of 10
average players. That's it.
David
But he doesn't do anything special. Sorry, Mykolenko doesn't do anything special. He doesn't get over the halfway line. But I'm not having a go at him for that. What I'm saying is he just does his job. And he should be applauded for just doing his job, yeah. But this idea of him being this amazing left back isn't true, is it? That's what I'm saying. It's like you've got to find that level of like players are just doing the job, and that's great. And if you can get 6 or 7 players who are 7 out of 10 every week, that's brilliant. And we did that after the first half of the season. But that's great. And Mykolenko's doing brilliantly, and I take my hat off to him. But I'm not wearing one, clearly. It's just here. That's what I'm saying. But we build them up, and then sometimes we do knock them down. But it's great if Patterson had the level of consistency that Mykolenko had. We'd have obviously the team would again be a bit more balanced.
Yeah. Yeah. What can I say? David says, honestly, if this comes down to the stadium, we should have 0 points taken off us. Never mind. Infrastructure. Yeah. Everton, Viking, the whole process has really made me start to read interest in footy. I love Everton. I'll keep going all the games, being punished in tribunals and courtrooms instead of what we're doing on the pitch, being handicapped, not allowed to spend money and still being punished. We aren't even allowed to compete. It gives me a feeling of what's the point. We're literally battling to save our Premier League status for 3 years. It'll be another fight we can't afford. Anyone, as everyone else in the league buys players, so it'll be the same next year. What is the point?
Well, what I would say is, the Premier League doesn't really care about you. The Premier League cares about its TV audience. It cares about its overseas audience. That's what it cares about. It cares about its TV deals. That's all it cares about. It doesn't care about us who go to the match, because it knows that we will go to the match anyway, and there'll always be a way of filling those stadiums. Certainly, you know, whether it's the teams that attract the day trippers. At the end of the day, TV, we already know, is manipulated. We already know they turn the sound down for us and they turn the sound up for the cop. We know this already. We saw during COVID how they can pump in artificial noise if they want to. Like, I'm not saying it's getting done, but it could get done if they wanted it to. If they want, if they can put the camera wherever they want it. If there's a big banner saying something about someone, they just won't show it. Like I seen on Sunday, the kickoff in the West Brom game, and the camera wouldn't show it, and that they basically, the commentators are describing what's happening, but the TV company won't show it. And like loads of journalists are like, why aren't they showing what's going on? This is news. We're not children. Like, why won't they just show it? But it's like, no, that hurts our product. Like, for years when someone would run on the pitch and they go, oh, the game's had to be stopped for this reason, and you're like, but it's so nonsense. They can show you what they want to show you at a game. They can make it sound like it's the greatest atmosphere in the world. They can make Anfield sound unbelievable by making sure when the coppers singing before kickoff, they turn it up. They can do what they want. They don't care about us who go to the game. They have no interest. All it's about is that is selling the dream of the overseas fan, isn't it? Yeah. Of this unbelievable
Old Trafford. You know that Old Trafford's quiet, and yet they make it out like it's amazing.
Most grounds are quiet.
Yeah.
Most grounds
the
are quiet.
The away fans who sing in every ground, isn't it? Tom Linsky says, bumped into Ned on Saturday night, watched him perform. He's really good, liked all his songs apart from Mr. Brightside. My head fell off, though, when he said his name isn't actually Ned. Ned told me that story before.
He told us that story. His version of it was
a bit different. He basically said you were like basically begging him to like sign your chest and everything, and you wanted his phone number and different. All of that stuff.
It's very different. It was very different. And he also was like when he said when you said what's your name to him, and he said Matty, we were like, why did you say that to him?
Because that's my name.
But no one knows you as that. No one knows you as that, dude.
It's not your name. It's not, though, because people don't. Do you think Elton John calls himself Reg?
No, never. Never. He won't.
Well, he
know.
doesn't.
Nobody doesn't know that Elton John's name is Red.
The other day, someone else I was listening to talking saying about his got obviously his name's different from his real name. And they were like, no, because that's. In the world, that's my name. And in the world, your name's Ned.
I'm known as Matty.
You're not, though. You're not.
I'm in the music community.
Your dad even calls you Ned now.
I am in the music community.
In the music community?
Yeah.
No, don't think you're that.
No, sorry. You're Ned. You're Ned.
You're Ned, mate.
Ned.
It's just...
No, you must...
Listen, do you think Shakin' Stevens calls himself Michael? He never called himself Michael. Yeah,
no one knows you.
No one knows
you.
Like, if he went, my name's Michael Barrett, everyone would be like, what? And then if he went, actually, this all happened, they go, shaky. See?
What if Tom knew me because he knew I was Mathew through someone
But he didn't. But Tom didn't.
And I said, my name's Ned. He'd have been like, no, I thought you were called Mathew. And I go, oh, yeah.
But that's my stage name's Ned. That's what you should have said. Liam, we should know by the middle of Feb, mate. On the takeover. Alan said, seeing someone on Twitter saying, yes, anyone trying to break up the favoured teams gets to a point where they have to sell the best players, but those best players end up at Premier League poster clubs, which only strengthens them. The PSR format is flawed and shite.
Who can that's the thing, right? Me and John were talking about this last night. We'll go on that, but people, the Premier League, like, will laud Brighton wouldn't he? For the way they do things, do something like do what Brighton do. Who buys Brighton's players?
Yeah, they want them to sell.
Who buys Brighton? How Brighton's model only works if there are clubs that can afford to buy them for 100 million. It only works. So the minute you take away their market to sell, their market doesn't work. So it's nuts. It's absolutely nuts.
Andrew Murphy, I'll just clear this up for the final time. Right? When Ped on Sky, and it was 6 years ago, it was a long time ago, said about winning the transfer window, the actual context to that clip, which people have missed, was it was a question. It was a question that everybody had been asked all day. And at that time, we were about to sign 4 players, and nobody else had signed anyone nearly that day. So everyone else was going, well, we've done all right when they're asked who's going to win the transfer window. So when Ped was asked who's going to win the transfer window, Everton were just about to sign 4 players before the 5 o'clock deadline, which they did. So naturally, he said, we're going to win it because we did. But it was a question. It wasn't something that decided in his head to come out with, we're winning the transfer window. So it was a response to a question all day that everybody had been asked. So there's your context to that. I'm never going to address it again because it's been addressed.
And we got thousands of new followers.
It doesn't
bother me.
No, but it's just there has to be a thing. There has to be. No, there has to be context.
It doesn't really bother me.
There's always got to be context.
Yeah, of course.
People can't just take one bit of something that's massive and then just go, I'm only using this little bit of it. Rob says, I'm still Deitch out. I don't know if we could get in though. Mourinho wouldn't come here with zero money. Not a chance. Ross says, I'd be surprised if he got any points back. It's clear the Premier League are trying to double them down. Everton Vikings says,
if Silky's on a no-win, no
fee. Dice doesn't believe subs help, yet every other manager in world football does. And often our team looks on its arse. And also his team have poor records second half of the season. It's a nonsense and it's arrogant, says Everton Viking. And David Gownsey, last one, says full Alan Kirbysley, what I said before. Some won't get how good that comment was. They won't because they won't understand the reference to it, but you did. And that is the one.
It's a bit of an old reference.
It is an old reference, but it is a reference nonetheless that let's go flat out and be safe by February and then start of March, and then Charlton would fall off a cliff for the last 8 weeks. They'd lose 7 of the last 8 and look knackered because they were done, weren't they? They were done. Right, we're going. Martin Cummings, he played a whole season for York City as a defensive midfield player. He was a defensive midfield player until Norwich decided to play him centre-back. So there you go. Right, we'll be on More Than a Game at 2:15. The link's there.
It's there.
Come over. Let's discuss all sorts on there. So get over it. And don't have to go nowhere. If you want to. Bizlock says up the Cali Thistle. Yeah, good win again for Dunk at the weekend. 3-2 away.
Isn't there a monkey on the loose though round there?
I
reckon Dunk's got the monkey.
Possibly, I don't know. That would be good. Imagine Dunk just with a monkey.
By the way,
just getting into and
the Traitors is filmed not that far from Inverness.
Yeah, 30 miles north.
Because when they did that thing the other week where they had to go to last week where they had to go to the boat.
Yeah.
That place. I Googled it and it was right by Inverness. I think we need to go to Inverness and speak to Dunk.
Well, we need to go and do a video with him and then we'll go and look at the castle as well. See if Claudia Winkleman's just knocking around there.
Seen a video of Claudia Winkleman yesterday from 1996 without a fringe. Very strange.
Yeah, she looks different.
Very strange and full on posh as well. Proper posh. No, which was even more posh then. Yeah.
My dentist told me this morning he finished Traitors on Friday. He's now watching Australian Traitors.
No, I can't do that.
Said it was all right.
There's an American one as well, and the guy that's Alan Tingle.
I could probably give it a go, but I couldn't. I don't think I could watch it.
Shine! I think you ought to try it, mate.
Straight off the back of the other one, though.
No, needs a break.
It need a little break to get the energy going again. Right, I'll see you at 2:15 on More Than a Game. Be good.